Hi folks, my name is Linda Emmett and welcome to Happiness is an Inside Job. We are the creators of our own reality, we create our own lives. Our mind is our biggest limit and it's our own beliefs, behaviours and habits constantly caught in those cycles that keep us trapped where we are and stand in the way of our own happiness. So throughout this podcast, we're going to take a deep dive into some of those beliefs, habits and patterns, where they show up in your lives and what you can do to change them. Hi there. On this week's podcast, we're going to dive into something that I think is one very personal to me and a lot of my friends that are listening, and that is stress and running your own business. I know certainly in the past year and a half since I've started up, one of the things that I've been constantly trying to balance my own stress levels and anxiety and fears is definitely in and around running my own business. The hats you wear and the roles you play. Most people that start up their own business are monster skilled within the niche that they're in. Like for me, as a coach and a hypnotherapist and meditation teacher, and those skills that I have, I hone them, I retrain in them, and they're my skill set. And like a lot of my friends who are social media marketers or digital marketers, content creators, painters, tax accountants, coaches, therapists, they are exceptional at what they do. But it does not mean that they're super skilled in every side of business. And as a business owner starting out, you absolutely need to be everything. And in the spaces that you don't have those skills, they can be huge stressors. When you start up, you don't necessarily have the funds to employ a social media marketer or an accountant or whatever it is that you're not skilled in. So these are the things that you have to learn, because in business, you become the accountant, the marketer, the scheduler, doing all the back office admin, running the systems, content creation, the secretary, the receptionist. And most of all, when you're running a business, when you're starting up, one of the biggest things you come up against is visibility. You can be monster skilled at what you do, you can be superb, but if people don't know you're there, it doesn't matter. So you're constantly showing up in different spaces across social media platforms, at events, pitching your ideas, having ideas, and every decision you make is on your shoulders. Every single decision. And it has been a huge learning space for me and a roller coaster. And I've built up an amazing network of friends and supporters. And I hope I support them too within business and within their lives. But it has definitely been one of the biggest, roller coasters that I've come up against. You're the employee and the boss. So you have to have a huge level of discipline. You have to learn self management, time management. You consult yourself with feedback and with the issues that you're having. If the printer breaks, it's on you. If the laptop is rebooting when you have to dive on a Zoom or wherever else, it's on you. You take hits, you fall down, you're constantly trying new things. You're constantly trying to be consistent in different areas, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. And at times you can get exhausted and there is no off switch, just the one that you create, the off switch that you create for yourself, which can be hard if the weight of the business is on you. And if you're taking that, if you're not treating the business as a separate entity to yourself, the business is something you do, not who you are. And creating that separation can be difficult because it's your baby. It's your purpose, it's your dream. And it is an amazing and courageous thing to do to set up your own business, whether you're doing it as full-time, part-time, as a gig, or the latest being called a side hustle. It is an amazing thing to do and a very brave thing to do, but it can also be absolutely consuming if you let it. If you measure yourself against how your week is going, or if you're constantly looking at how others are doing, if you're constantly looking side to side on what they're doing and telling yourself what you're not doing, as opposed to seeing what you are doing, you're constantly trying to evolve all the time, whether you're starting up a new booking system, or you're taking on new clients, or you're waiting to be paid, or you're writing up contracts or terms and conditions. For as long as your business is growing, you need to be growing with it. And it's not waiting for balance to come. It's about constantly creating balance for yourself within that space. It's remembering yourself within that space. It's remembering to do the things to keep your mental health and your emotional health where you need them to be and where you want them to be. It's remembering to take care of yourself within that space. And depending on your business, you may only get to do the thing that you're in it for, the thing you love, 30 to 50% of the time. The rest of the time, you're doing that back office stuff, you're doing the follow ups, you're doing the admin and the tax books and all of those other things. And regardless, because it is an uncertain space, you are always taking hits or things that happen within business. And what I mean by that is the likes of cancellations. Cancellations are tough on every business owner, especially if they're at the last minute. And they may have had a few in that particular week and month. And unfortunately, it can be the nature of the beast. The only thing that we can do as business owners is to have systems in place. I know certainly when I started out, I had no cancellation policies or fees. I was quite naive within that space, and I would have been very much, oh, things happen, life happen, which is very, very true. And, exceptional circumstances do happen. People get sick and things like that, and that's all acceptable. But that's not always the reason that people cancel or people just do not show up. And depending on what kind of a month you're having, this can happen a number of times within the month. And I know for me, I wasn't too long starting out, and I had a particular month where I took a massive hit financially because of the level of cancellations that I had in that one particular month. And that brings a huge amount of uncertainty in, and it means that you do end up building in those systems, you do end up taking care, you do end up trying to manage that uncertainty and balance that within what clients need. Because as I mentioned, there are exceptional circumstances, there are things that happen, but there are at times as well people that just don't show up, and not knowing month to month what money is coming in, or if a new idea of marketing is going to take off, or if it's going to work, leaves a huge amount of uncertainty for business owners. And it is, again, balancing yourself within that uncertainty. Understanding that that is the nature of the beast until you build up enough momentum, enough of a client base, enough contracts, streamline enough system to get you to where you have some certainty within your business. And I do think for most business owners, it is something that they're striving for. They are striving for that certainty, that they know they have a baseline of income, a baseline of knowing where they are each month, knowing they can pay the bills, knowing that they can put money into growth for new ideas, for podcasts, classes, retreats, new booking systems, whatever that may be. One thing I see a lot with business owners and clients, and I'm very guilty of myself, and I'm only reining that in at the moment, is burying themselves in the next course or the next new system or the next new book which can often leave them actually feeling more overwhelmed because they have all the things that they've to do within their business, plus this new course, this new thing that they've signed up to. Like a lot of business owners that I would speak to, will own 1,000 books that they've committed to reading, and they're sitting on their bookshelf or their app or on their phone, because we can often think that within this new book, this new course, you're going to find what you need, you're going to get it. This is going to be the thing that's going to do it for you. This is going to be the thing that's going to take you to that space or drive you on. And what happens in there is, and what's really shown up is, it's that we're just not feeling good enough. Now, I'm not saying by any means that it's a bad thing to try and improve your skills or hone your skills, or I'm always learning and it's just a part of my makeup, a part of who I am. I love learning. But it's when I'm doing that to get a feeling, to feel good enough, to move through or get away from imposter syndrome or those other things that can show up in business. That's when I need to be doing the inner work. That's when I need to be working on myself. And that shows up a lot within business owners and professionals, and as I mentioned, a lot of my clients. If you're always chasing the next course and trying to get a feeling from it, thinking that this is going to be the one that you need to be in business, to be who you are, to not be an imposter, well, then you're chasing a dragon, because you will constantly chase another course unless you do the inner work on yourself and build the belief in who you are and that you are enough, and that imposter syndrome is absolutely something that you can work on. And as I say that coming from where I've been and where I go sometimes. I'll dive into imposter syndrome at times, depending on where I'm going, what new spaces I'm going into. Of course, I'll have a bit of that running in the background, but it's just doing the work in the time, in that space and in that time. And I'll always remind myself, coming from a space where I would have struggled massively with anxiety in the past. I'll the odd time get that niggling fear that the anxiety will come back. Oh, I'm feeling a bit anxious. And again, it's just reminding myself, anxiety is normal within our body. Having a baseline level of anxiety is just coming from the fact that that thing is important to you. We'll get a baseline level of anxiety going in to do a new talk, standing up at a meeting, presenting a new proposal, or any of those things that we do within our day-to-day work. You will get a level of anxiety. That's just because it's important to you. So being able to breathe into that, accept it, see it for what it is and move through it. It's when it's stopping you from rising and it's stopping you from moving into new spaces. That's again when it is becoming a problem. It is becoming something that's holding you back. And again, as this can 100% show up for all of us, but I'll certainly see it within the business owner space. Because I think even for me, one of the biggest things that I've learned in business is you literally cannot hide from your own fears. Setting up your own business and putting yourself out there and putting your packages together and streamlining your processes and doing all of those things. Wow, does it absolutely shine a light very brightly on your fears. Whether you're the person that does not like tech and avoids tech, or whether you're afraid of the learning side, the academic side, having to dive in and do more learning. If you're uncomfortable showing up, or you struggle with imposter syndrome or perfectionism, time management, patience, absolutely starting up your own business shines a light on all of this. And it's keeping self-care front and center each day. And sadly, self-care is not just having a snazzy bubble bath with a lush bath bomb. It's a nice thing to do for ourselves, but self-care is learning to parent yourself every day, doing the inner work on yourself. Some of my biggest struggles were discipline and grounding, learning to not only do the things that I liked, and learning not to get carried away with the next course, the next thing, learning to ground myself, learning to breathe back into the present, stand in the present, and consciously think of where I was going, where I am now, and what was taking me towards the goals that I wanted to reach. And definitely a level of imposter syndrome showed up. More so when I was the newbie going into the space, but even still, if you're expanding in business, you will be going into new spaces all the time, showing up in new places. And it's working with your imposter syndrome, because it will show up, and learning to believe in myself, in my purpose, in what I want to give and what I want to do, even on the bad days, and not diving down a rabbit hole of self-sabotage and beating myself up. And it's doing that on the bad days is the harder thing. And that's why learning to parent yourself within that, and that includes your time management, setting your days up that you're doing all the pieces you need to do rather than just the things that you want to do. Stopping for lunch breaks, stepping away from the screen or whatever it is you need to step away from. If you're feeling overwhelmed, not trying to walk through it. All you're doing is driving stress in your system, and it's building in these habits and these systems. And for me, I'm the absolute queen of journaling. So I write a huge amount. I do that a lot within my personal life. I have journals for a number of different things, which works very well for me in my home life. But what I figured out in business was I had journals everywhere. I journals for content, I journals for books, I journals for notes, I journals, and it became quite chaotic. I could never find that one important piece that I needed to edit or change or fix or add in a new technique. And I learned that having a huge amount of journals in my business life was actually extremely stressful. So now it's learning to stop myself writing in journals and put it all on the laptop, put it all on the computer, and building in some healthy boundaries that stop me diving into old behaviors and old patterns. Literally learning to say no to myself, not allowing myself to be consumed by what I see on social media. When people show up on social media, you see what they want you to see. Especially in business, it's marketing, and it's beautiful and it's amazing marketing. And they are showing, of course, the best side of themselves, the best side of business, or the best side of their lives. And reminding yourself of your journey, where you're going and what you're doing, is so important. And reminding yourself of the reasons you got in the first place, holding on to your why, holding on to the reasons that you're doing this. I know my reasons. I know a chunk of my reasons come from where I've been in my life, how I've felt, behaviors, patterns, issues I've had. I want to empower people to live happier and better, and release them from all the crap and the gunk and the patterns and all the stuff that has been dragging them down or holding them back. That's some of the work that I want to do. And the podcast is a tool for me to get that out to people, to talk to people about some of the struggles they may come up against with stress, anxiety, and negative beliefs and patterns. And that's some of my why. Another thing that's massively important when you're in business, or if you're a busy professional, using your support systems. When you reach a problem or a decision that you have to make, you're all but guaranteed you're not the first person on the planet to need to make that decision or to have to figure that problem out. There's nearly always somebody that's done it before you. So using your supports, looking into that, reaching out, and maybe stepping over your pride at times. There is a solution out there, and giving yourself the boundaries of having that pause button, being able to to stop, to slow down, to walk away, to pause, to breathe, calm yourself from the situation that you're in, see what's driving your stress, see what's driving the overwhelm, and being able to switch, to knock off, to walk away. Again, for me, I know I have insane fights with Canva, as do many business owners. I go down an absolute rabbit hole of fonts and colours, and it looks like a unicorn has vomited on it by the time I'm finished. Then I spend hours dialing that back, and it's a rabbit hole. So I've learned things to build in to stop me doing that, to stop me. Time limits, having set fonts, set reasons I'm going in, all of these things. I'm building that in as much as you can to your daily business life. Having your grounding practices, having daily practices and rituals built into your day. I do mine at 11 o'clock, and it makes a huge difference. It rebalances me, it grounds me, and it gets me back in the present, not swallowed in the screen that I'm looking at. Planning is a huge one as well. That's very beneficial, both in life and in business. Having your week laid out, having it planned out. And that way it's easier for you to manage time. But also, life happens around us all the time. So just learning to let yourself off the hook if everything didn't stick to your exact time plan. Everything didn't go along according to your time plan. Allowing yourself off the hook and just having the resilience and the flexibility to build a new time plan. This happens with it can show up with clients all the time. When people need to postpone, when they need to cancel, when you're going into a meeting and that's postponed, it shows up a huge amount. So being able to be flexible and rebalance yourself within that, it really, really dilutes your own stress levels. So again, as I mentioned, I absolutely raise my hat to anybody starting up a business or out there in business. It's a hugely brave and courageous thing to do. It really, really is. I've met so many amazing friends. I have talked quite a bit about, I suppose, the negative side of it, but I am very, very, very privileged to get to do what I do. Very, very privileged. I just wanted to share a bit of what can show up, and that it is normal and there are ways through it on the bad days, because it can be a lonely space if you're not reaching out to your supports. So till next week, guys. Toodles.